Welcome back to the LCS, folks. It is kickoff week. Things are officially rolling. The teaser has been revealed. Everything feels like it is in motion, other than some players being missing for opening day. So with that, I wanted to get the community thoughts, community narratives, and get your points out there with today's I Don't Want to Overreact, but where I went to Twitter and TikTok and asked you for your takes. As long as you tag me on TikTok or reply with a video on Twitter, we're going to have it here. If I have enough time, I'll get to some of the text takes, but again, video and audio will always be prioritized. Really quickly though, before we get into text, again, we are going to have a New York City watch party for LCS opening weekend on Saturday, Cloud9 versus Team Liquid. We will be there, including the second match, which I believe is DSG versus Sentinels. Now, I know the weather doesn't look great this weekend, but I don't think that's supposed to hit until Sunday. So even though it'll be cold, we'll still be there. Don't tell me it's too much. Put on your Timbs, put on your hoodie, and get out. But no, seriously, it's going to be a fun time. It's free to come, free to watch, nothing required other than just obviously supporting OS in any way, shape, or form that you can, whether it's food, beverage, or even a day pass there. A massive thank you to them for hosting us and hope to see many of you this upcoming Saturday. But let's get into the community takes. Starting off with a man that I know will be there this Saturday. Ninja, what do you got for me, brother?
What's up, Shot Knockers? I don't want to overreact, but this is a nice class of imports and arguably maybe one of the better class of imports we've had in the last few years. I know people are going to give a lot of crap to Morgan and Hambach coming from the Bro team, but if you actually watch the LCK, you would know that Morgan was not the reason that Bro team was bad. He was one of the few reasons that Bro team even was semi-competitive. Hambach is a slightly different story, but I feel like with no one breathing down his neck rather than some random Korean challenger kid breathing down his neck, I feel like he's going to do a little bit better in this situation. And Z9, I really feel like he has a shot to upset maybe a few people this year and sort of prove that he was really only in challengers because he was behind BDD. I feel like this is a solid import class this year that's going to shock a lot of people.
First, brother, it is Zinni. Zinni is the pronunciation of his name. To my understanding, at least that's what I've seen in content and others say. So I'm going with that. This is a weird one because I don't really ever think back to import classes necessarily. There are obviously standout import players when we look at the history of C9. Obviously, M&S stands out. Thanatos, Loki in the past 2 years. Team Liquid has just historically imported a lot. I don't think I saw anybody say that like this talent class of imports is bad. It's just that we wanted more North American players. But arguably, honestly, I'm just trying to think back to like some of the strongest import classes that we've seen. Like Core JJ came over in 2019 alongside Crown, but I can't remember if TSM had anybody on that roster. You remember the big names, but you never remember like the ancillary, like the 6th through 8th place teams that imported and then those players just like went back home. So honestly, I don't think I'm informed enough, or like my memory's not good enough on this without taking a lot of time to sit here and like go back and look at the class of imports if somebody has that list available. So I can't really disagree. I will say I think they look good, and the imports that we're bringing over for the most part are in the slots that you would expect them to be in. I'll turn this over to you all in the comments because I know there's a lot of people that watch the LCK and beyond. You are arguably going to be more informed on this than I am. So I just want to get your thoughts. Put in the comments, which import are you most excited to see this year? Is it Zinni, who I think has probably the most amount of hype, considering that he's going into a roster that's already borderline like top 3, and him going in probably puts them over the edge if he performs well. But then you look at Team Liquid and it's like, okay, well, they underperformed. The importing is going to get them back to a stock standard place that they're used to, which is top 3, top 4. So that technically elevates their status, but I wouldn't say that they're any like better or worse than Umpty was. So, and even though Quid technically counts as an import, he very much has just been here long enough that like he's not part of this import class in particular. I don't know. Interesting take. I'm going to think on that more and might talk about that later in the week, but I'm not informed enough right now. Up next, Boss Kitty. What you got for me?
Howdy, I'm BossKittyLoL, and I don't want to overreact, but the LCS is going to die if we don't bring in new fans and cater to them. So, Let's be honest. The LCS viewership has been down even when it was LTA, even besides that whole debacle. Viewership numbers have been going down, and if we want to make this league sustainable and we want to see it thrive, we really have to bring in new faces from other esports. We have to make the people who play League but don't watch it actually give esports a chance, and there's a few things that I want to see happen if we're going to make that happen. and it would be more content with other games and other creators from other games, really build up that social media aspect. I want to see more beginner-friendly League of Legends creators. Shout out to Mrs. Chim Chim, doing great work.
Yeah.
And I want to see a more welcoming environment for new players in general. Cloudsicky made a video the other day just talking about how people have been fighting constantly about who has the better team, who is the fan of the better team, which team's going to win, and it's turned into more than just shit talk. So I want to be friendly to fans of all teams, of all players, of all games, and we really need to make something happen here in the League community if we're going to save this esport.
Okay, let's break down the 3 different parts of that argument, because obviously the statement of LCS is going to die if we don't bring in new fans, yeah, like obviously, yeah. So the 3 parts of the 3 pillars. First is the cross content between different teams. And that's not saying like obviously Flyquest needs to partner with C9. That is specifically saying, okay, Cloud9 has a Call of Duty team. Cloud9 also has League of Legends team. Have them face off against each other in some way, shape, or form. This is actually the content that did by far and away the best for 100 Thieves at the beginning of last year when they brought in the squad that had made finals. Sniper was in there, FBI and crew. They put them with the Valorant guys and the COD guys, and it all kind of mixed and matched. And you got to see this respect where like, hey, the COD guys and the Valorant guys were really doing a lot to kind of like bolster up the League guys. And like, hey, your esport is tougher than you give yourself credit for. And it did a lot to kind of validate the League scene because let's be honest, a lot of the people that are in the space are a little bit more on the shyer side, a little bit less social than games like Call of Duty or Valorant, at least when engaging with other people, both online and in content like that. So yeah, I think that goes a very long way and creates a lot of organizational unity that can help bring in fans elsewhere. Team Liquid, I'm looking at their Counter-Strike team, okay? And their Valorant team. Like you should be able to try and blend those with the League pillar. Now, granted, their Valorant team is European, so that creates complications. But regardless, like you're a big enough org, there should, in theory, be some crossover. And like one of the things I would love to see, and maybe it's not a beginning of the year content piece, maybe it's like towards the end of the year as you get these players established. I would love to see like the actor on actor interviews that you see from it's not Vogue, I forget who does it, but I would love to see player on player interviews. Have 2 players sit down. And whether they've actually met each other or not, doesn't matter. Let them have a conversation. See where it flows. Now, it's gamers. It might be a little bit more restricted, but I think it would go a very long way to just building culture within the org. The second part on like making sure you are catering to new players to League and making sure you do a lot of introductory content. Jesus, my English today. Not great. No, I agree. And there was a conversation that Cloudsicky and Marn had with Brikachu when they specifically talked about different things that could happen that content creators and Riot alike both need to align on in terms of making sure that you are able to introduce people into the fandom. Now, that's not saying that every creator has to, make that type of content. That's not what I'm saying. I think you need to have that blend of high level, mid level, and low level. It needs to be a balance between all of them so that people have somebody that they can relate to. But in this case, yeah, we are desperately missing any sort of educational content for newer players and lower elo players. And I think a lot of that comes through like people just learning to play the game themselves and then following along that with like somebody else that's in the org that's a little bit higher caliber as well. That's not really my forte or my specialty at all. So I don't really think I'm going to be able to be of much use, but I think this should be a launching point for other creators to look at and be like, yeah, be that pillar for others in the fandom. All right. If you are seeing something missing, be willing to fill that gap yourself and help introduce new fans or those that show interest at all in your org or your team. Help fill those gaps for them. And if you want to turn that into content, fine, great. But I don't think you should see creators necessarily pivot to that route. You just want to see a new crop of creators rise up that are actually good at like basically teaching content. Now, the third part I do disagree with, and that is like the arguments, the bickering, the rivalry between different fandoms, and that we need to be, not necessarily nicer, but just we need to be more cordial. I disagree. Look, I come from a sports fandom where I'm going to blanketly talk way more shit than most people. So unfortunately, you've come to the wrong channel or the wrong person for that particular point. I think those rivalries are healthy. There is a line that you have to make sure you don't cross. There is a point where banter becomes problematic, and you have to be very clear on that. And that comes from the organization, like drawing that line within the creators and those that help push their brand. But personally, like, I'm going to sit here and tell you that I want Cloud9 to lose at various different points. I don't want to see them go to Worlds. And I'll tell you that your team is shit relative to mine, that you are going to choke. And if you have a problem with that, I get it. That's not for everybody. But I'll make sure the people that are like me and like that, you know, for the others that don't, we'll leave you alone. Like, you do your thing and, you know, be as you will. But we are arguably going to be more vocal on Twitter for that exact reason, because we are arguing, but we enjoy doing that. And if you don't find that fun, then that's fine. You got to find your own pockets of fandom elsewhere. But like that, I'm sorry, that's sports fandom to me. I enjoy that side of it. I don't think that's a repercussion or like a negative thing in any way, shape, or form. In fact, arguably, that's many of the TSM fans that we're missing in LoL esports enjoyed that side of things. That's what allows Europe to be as popular as it is now. And if you look at traditional sports, that's a lot of fandom online as well. So I disagree vehemently with that point, but the rest, yeah, 100% I'm on board. All right, Alex Herriman, what you got for me, brother?
Not to overreact, but I'm still very salty about Toasty not being signed to
you and me both.
Year, leaving to Europe, and just the lack of support in general that Tier 2 gets in North America. How are we supposed to grow if we don't have a pipeline to grow? And it's why projects that are super important this year include Flyquest, of course, and also DSG. They're the only teams that are taking a chance on Tier 3, Tier 2 talent. You know, they're actually bringing on rookies. And as ThinkCard said in a recent interview, if projects like these work, it gives hope to younger players. So this is very important. But at the end of the day, I still think we need more support for Tier 2 and Tier 3. We cannot be losing our best talents to Europe like we just lost Toasty. And not that he's gone forever, right? He could be back next year. But man, we need something. We need something to help grow NA talent. And I don't know if I see that right now.
I agree, unfortunately. Like, obviously, it sucks to lose as many people as we are over to Europe. And look, this is a trend that's not going to stop anytime soon. We have years before we ultimately catch up to Europe in viewership, assuming that everything goes right. So the paychecks are going to be higher over there because there's more people watching and more people playing. The system is just naturally going to be better and more conducive. You're going to see many more pros take chances over there if they can, maybe study abroad in some capacities that they're over in Europe and can play in those ERL systems. But as for what we can do on Tier 2 North America, look, I mean, the biggest thing that you have to look at is you have to look at LCS orgs not only taking chances on younger talent, which you bring up a great point in Flyquest being able to do that. You look at teams like Team Liquid, who when they have import slots open, it's like, okay, are you immediately going to pull the trigger on those imports, or are you going to like actually take a risk on a North American talent and leave one of those slots open for the sake of making sure that we're promoting our players? Because I mean, that's ultimately where this comes. If teams do not start enough North American talent and players feel like they have to go elsewhere in an already smaller league than Europe, yeah, like we're naturally going to be screwed. And unfortunately, there's really not much we can do on that front. On like the Tier 2, like actual ecosystem wise, I mean, the biggest thing you could do is like LCS org set a portion of their stipend that they get from the league aside for Tier 2 development, whether it's like hosting combines and hosting tournaments in some way, shape, or form. Even if you're not hosting or not like paying for a team, like a Team Liquid Academy or a Flyquest Academy or whatever that might be, and you are starting to see some of these orgs partner with Tier 2 orgs, but that's not the same, if we're being honest. Like you're partnering in name and you're providing coaching and time, which obviously is great, but like, I mean, you just need, in my opinion, tournaments. Like, you just don't see Tier 2 players play. That's the one lesson that I've learned from Call of Duty this year, is that simply playing more in Tier 2 and having the opportunity to play these tournaments, which then content creators and teams can come in and try and help monetize in any way, shape, or form that they can, and use that as leverage towards Tier 1. Like, everybody needs to use the system to their benefit in some way, shape, or form. And I mean, we got 3 months until we see Tier 2 even play a game? Yeah, like nothing's gonna happen. And then whenever it's finally back on in a bit, it's like, okay, well, Do I really care all that much if I'm already like invested in the LCS and that's going on? Like, you've already phased it out of your cycle in terms of content consumption. Like, the diehards like myself will occasionally tune in. Obviously the tier 2 diehards in general, they'll be there every day, but like, that's only a couple thousand people. So no, I think you just need more tournaments and more content on top of that is like your only real solution that I can think of realistically, besides obviously LCS teams bringing in more tier 2 players. But that's like pulling teeth at this point, barring a few exceptions, as mentioned. I like the take. There's not much I can really do about it, unfortunately. And I don't have the time. Before, I always get the comments of like, you can watch tier 2 and get involved with an org. You're not living my life. You don't know my time. When I tell you I don't have the capacity to watch tier 2 like that, I would only watch it in the capacity that if the team that I'm a fan of for LCS has a sister team or has like a subsidiary there, sure, maybe. But again, whatever time allows. I got tier 1 to worry about. We need other tier 2 creators to push the envelope and try and make something of it. But there's only so much you can do. We got one final video take, and that is from Sevolin. What you got for me?
I don't want to overreact, but I think that Gryffinn will play a huge role in bringing new fans to the LCS, increasing viewership more than anyone else in recent years. When he was announced as the new Flyquest jungler, I at first had no real idea who he was other than the fact that he played in the LTA South last year for a split, and he was a streamer. Then, in the span of a week, I already became a fan. I watched his NA tag team streams where he was serious at times while also being lighthearted and funny, in addition to being the most active streamer in the competition. Then, I watched him openly call Shopify Rebellion a Mickey Mouse team for losing to Red in front of Fudge on the last Pros podcast, also beefing with some of the other players while just sounding super excited. He even opened up a little bit about getting tilted sometimes and all that normal competitive stuff as well. Then, in the LCS's bag video, the videos of him lifting weights and talking about his motivation were just icing on the cake for me. It may just be how much he's showing up recently in all of the videos and stuff, but I just have a gut feeling that as long as he doesn't completely screw up his first year in the LCS, he's going to be a very popular player and be the next face of the LCS, as much as someone like Doublelift in the past.
100% agreed. Like, the star of the show, if you didn't go watch the LCS's back, like, teaser trailer, in my opinion, is Gryffinn. Like, you have C9 talking about legacies and dynasties and, like, Blabber saying that we want to be the next one. All right, go ahead, win. Like, we've been making that same case for C9 of, like, hey, what's the next legacy for, like, 2 years now. All right, sure. Like, I get the point. C9 fans are going to be happy with that. Bunch of old school players. Cool. TL had Yon and Core JJ, which obviously Core JJ mentoring yet another younger Korean player. Like, awesome to see. That was cool. You had some other faces, but the star of the show, by far and away, is Gryffinn. For all the reasons just mentioned here. He is appearing on content in such a, like, not really such a, just like so much of it. He is shotgunning content, which honestly, I freaking love because modern social media requires that. You need to be omnipresent and involved with everything. And I love how much he's willing to talk. And, I don't want to bring Sniper down when I say this, but like when Sniper crap talk, it was like, okay, little brother kind of punching up a little bit, like taking some jabs, but like it wasn't really landing as much. Like some of the haymakers that he tried to throw didn't land as effectively. Gryffinn, I don't know if it's because of the year that he spent down in Brazil or whether he's just naturally like got that level of banter to him a little more. He's landing some punches. And on top of that, he just gets the streaming point. Like, he gets everything about the content side. That the only thing that I worry about for him is obviously the point of him not showing up on the Rift. Potential issue if he doesn't. Obviously, he needs to live up to this moment. Same thing as like every #1 draft pick in the NFL ever. It's like, great, you've been handed this on a silver platter, but now you got to show up. And there's leniency to be given there. Look at Caleb Williams of the Chicago Bears. First year, not so great. This year, yeah, people quickly realizing why he was drafted #1 overall. Same thing for Gryffinn here. There's a reason why he is so hyped up. And we got to make sure we give him the right amount of time, but he does need to make sure that he's developing into that role. But I believe that genuinely Flyquest has found a superstar here. We're like, assuming he performs, this is branding at the level of Blabber, arguably bigger, higher, more. Like he just gets the content game early on, which could be a salvation for not only Flyquest, who are going through a rebuild or rebrand to a certain extent with losing the legacy roster that they just had, but also for the LCS, which desperately needs something like this. And I don't want to see him lose his ability to just crap talk everybody. You saw that with APA and with some of the others that, like, you know, they come out and they have these good starts and then they trail off a little bit and they kind of calm down the crap talk as well. Like, don't let off the gas. If that's going to be your personality, you need to be pedal to the floor at all times. And I hope Gryffinn understands that. He seems to. Like, 100% seems to get it. You just got to see as time goes on. Whenever he gets those first few punches and licks back on him, how does he handle that? What does he do? But everything that I'm seeing from Gryffinn, yeah, I agree. This dude is set up to be one of, if not the face of the league in 3 years' time. And I really hope we get to that point. It would be so freaking cool. I'll get a few text takes in here. We'll go through these a little bit quick because obviously there's not as much material to go off of. Speedy says, I don't want to react, but this is a make or break year for LCS because it's the first year that there's this much positive momentum in at least 6+ years. If it fails again, there is no hope. Also, I believe one of the road shows will finally be in DC. I would love for it to be in DC. Honestly, the DMV area deserves it a lot. I would love to see one of those road trips be consistently in New York, but I'm inherently selfish. But I will gladly take a train down to DC or rent a car and go down there absolutely in a heartbeat. DMV deserves it. As for the positive momentum for the LCS, it definitely feels like it. Like, I'm biased, obviously, and I'm going to sit here and hype it up more than ours, but I'm telling you, I just see this wave of positivity that seems to be surrounding the LCS. Posts on Reddit seem to be doing better than they have before. Twitter replies seem to be a little bit more just engaged than they normally have been. The question becomes, what does that do for viewership? And I don't want to be one of those viewership Andes on the LCS front, specifically because I know, I've got a mouthpiece on this point, and if I start harping on it, because I know, like, while I find tracking the numbers entertaining and part of the business cycle of this and everything else around it, like, I enjoy that. I know other people don't have the ability to not just immediately go doom and gloom. I saw that whenever talking about Los Ratones in the LEC, because I'll talk about their viewership. I don't give a shit if Europeans freak out about their stuff. Go right ahead. As of right now, by the way, go check those shorts. K-Corp fans and Los Ratones fans are eating each other alive over these numbers. It's freaking hilarious. But no, it does need to rebound. Like, I think the positive momentum is good, but it has to become something tangible. And we realistically got about 2 years. Like, we got a 2-year runway to get this viewership back on somewhat of an upward trend. From there, we'll see. But let's not talk about it too much, other than just like hyping up what we're excited about. Talk about your favorite players, your favorite teams, and beyond. Like, just do the normal thing that fans do, and we should be fine. And hopefully, all this will grow. And I'll try and do my part. The teams will hopefully do theirs. The league will do theirs, and everything clicks. And if we need to address problems as they come up, don't worry. We'll have another I don't want to overreact like next month. Wigs said, I don't want to overreact, but I'm worried the talent level has been too dispersed this year for decent international success. Good for the league, though. We should have 8 competitive teams instead of 5. Well, realistically, we had like 2 last year. Maybe 3, but realistically, 2. And that was it. So, yes, domestic, this is going to be such a better product to watch than 2025. Like, just straight up, even excluding the LTA part of it, it just feels like it's going to be a much better time. But on the international success, I don't want people focusing on that. But the thing I would say is, it's not like we had that good of results last year. We finished last at first stand. I don't think we made it. We didn't achieve anything massive of note at MSI. We obviously didn't get out of Swiss stage at Worlds. So like last year wasn't a great year. Like our bar's in hell. So like, even though people are going to come into this and be like, yeah, well, these guys aren't proven on the international stage. You know what? Sometimes it takes people that aren't so proven on that stage to come in and shake things up and actually be, the bastions of hope. Because just we've seen this over and over again. When we rely on the veterans and the people that have been there before to do it, but yet they haven't done it. Like, what do you guys say? Like, nobody from North America in the last, 9 years? Since 2019 MSI has beaten the East in a series. So it's 7 years, give or take. Why do we have any faith that the old guard and those that came before could suddenly do it now? Have faith in the young guns. Watch them develop. Just enjoy their storylines. Don't worry about the international side of things. When we get there, we get there. But for now, we got a domestic tournament or, well, domestic league to worry about. ButterMyTooshie says, I don't want to overreact, but Shopify will be our first stand representative, and the first LCS Roadshow will be in San Jose, the Bay Area of California. If it's in California, I swear to God, I'm punching a hole in a wall. As for Shopify being that first representative, look, I think Zinni's just going to take time. I don't think this is going to be one of those imports that comes in and lights the world on fire right away like Eminence. I think he's going to be more like a Quid that by the end of the year, maybe we have that conversation. First stand representative? No. Absolutely not. And the final take I'll give is going to be to Mike D, who said he works in a factory, so the audio is not possible. I will cut you a break. Not an overreaction, but the only undefeated team in LCS history broke up, creating a huge power vacuum. Was Flyquest really the only undefeated LCS team? Huh. I don't think that's true, but regardless. I wonder who's going to fill the void and how often the top team changes throughout the year. Go Flyquest. Okay, I looked it up. Technically, Flyquest did go undefeated in Split 3 because of how the format worked. I'm not going to count that, if we're being honest. Like, come on. If you don't drop a game, maybe. But they did lose games to 100 Thieves, to Shopify Rebellion. And yeah, that was pretty much it. So, no, I'm not going to count that necessarily because I think Cloud9 2020 was arguably better in terms of domestic play. But no, I genuinely do agree that there has been a vacuum created by the absence or like changes at the top right now. And people don't have full faith in C9 because of how they ended the year last year. That quite literally, it is entirely anyone's game coming into this lock-in tournament that is going to be riddled with visa issues. There weren't any specific takes about that. I'll talk about it on Friday as we see what all rosters are at full strength, what are not. We'll go over LCS Fantasy. If you haven't joined the Shinewalkers over there, be sure to do so. But I think that hits on all the community takes for the time being. I will have another one of these videos in probably about a month's time after we get through the initial Swift stage, maybe before playoffs, but we'll see. Again, I know people love this series, and again, do me a favor, hit that like and subscribe button down below if you do enjoy it. But I also don't want to overdo this whenever we get like 4 video submissions. Like, I understand like the supply and demand of this. But thanks for watching. Obviously, we have a lot more to talk about this week, but that's what Friday's episode of The Pit and the return of The Pit in 2026 is going to be covering. All the major headlines that you need to know that have happened this week, a preview of the matches, fantasy, and beyond. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you all later. Bye-bye.